You know, the 1980s gave us some big hair, some big shoulder pads, and the biggest scares. It was the golden age of the VHS rental store where you could find some crazy B-horror movies, great genre mashups that could only exist in the awesome, totally rad decade of the 1980s. I am Chase with AVA Pop Culture, and today I have the 10 best 80s horror movies that you can stream right now for free on TUBI. So pop that tape in, I got you, let's go do this. All right, 1980s horror movies on TUBI. Now, there is a lot of them, to be sure. It is a great decade for horror, and I have a list of what I think are the 10 best that you can stream right now on TUBI, and a few honorable mentions may be thrown in there. Now, I'm going to give you links to where you can find these on streaming. Of course, it's TUBI here, and on physical media, so that if you try these before you buy, you can own these 80s classics in your collection. So turn down your Walkmans, turn up that neon glow, and let's get to the top 10 80s horror movies on TUBI right now. All right, coming in at number 10 is a genre mashup for sure. We're talking 1985's LIFEFORCE.
From body to body, from life to life, from man to woman, changing, growing, burning for our life force.
Now this one is sort of cosmic horror meets softcore Euro sleaze, sci-fi with a little bit of Hammer film DNA thrown in there, and it was directed by Tobe Hooper of Poltergeist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, among others. And the story in this one is basically space vampires. You have an astronaut who discovers a spaceship inside Halley's Comet, only to bring back a vampiric space alien who drains your life force while being very hot and very nude all the time through most of the movie. And yes, it is as wild as it sounds. The big budget on this thing famously bankrupted Cannon Films. It is known for those big budget effects, a $25 million budget that just ballooned out of control in the 1980s. And maybe it was a bit ahead of its time, because now it is a cult classic that is appreciated on so many levels. The over-the-top effects, the over-the-top nudity, sexuality, and that Cold War sense of apocalypse make it very 80s excess. I love this one. In space, no one can hear you scream, especially if you're naked. LIFEFORCE from 1985 comes in at number 10.
Life force. In the blink of an eye, the terror begins.
All right, at number 9 is one from 1987, and this one is not for the faint of heart. We are talking Clive Barker's Hellraiser. This was Clive Barker's directorial debut, and it brings the Cenobites to Earth. These are demons who promise pleasure and pain in equal measure, which is kind of disturbing. It starts with a mysterious puzzle box, a man ripped apart in chains, and a woman helping resurrect him through fresh blood. That just starts it all off. So that tells you what you're in for right here. The 80s gory practical effects, which I absolutely love. Rubber monsters, the goth industrial aesthetic of the whole thing, and looks that came out of a heavy metal album cover. That's what I always think of when I see Hellraiser, is a heavy metal, like death metal album cover. And when you think about that, the Cenobites, led by Pinhead, were under so much makeup that Doug Bradley, Pinhead himself, was so unrecognizable that without his makeup, a lot of the cast didn't even know who he was at the cast party. So that tells you how much real practical effects are going into this. That's very 1980s. This thing is very hardcore, very punk rock, not for the faint of heart. You have all kinds of graphic violence and sexual things. It is a crazy debut for Clive Barker, but it is one that if you're into 1980s horror, you have to check out. Hellraiser comes in at number 9 on this list.
We'll tear your soul apart.
All right, coming in at number 8 on this list is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
They live on fear. They thrive on it. I ain't got no fear left.
From 1986, we have Tobe Hooper striking again, and this one isn't just a sequel that he made. This is a gonzo crazy horror comedy that is dripping with gore and satire and stars a couple of my friends. One, Bill Moseley as the famous Chop Top in here. He starred in my film Dark Road 79. And you have Carolyn Williams, who plays an awesome radio DJ in this, and she is just as awesome in real life. You have Leatherface and his family returning. This time they are battling Carolyn Williams and Dennis Hopper, who's in this, and they're wielding dual chainsaws, splatter humor, a synth-heavy score and sound design, fashion choices in this thing that come straight out of an 80s MTV music video set. This one is 80s all the way, including the film poster, which is a parody of The Breakfast Club, proving that even cannibals wanted to be part of the Brat Pack in the 80s. This one's 80s all the way through, excess gore, excess comedy, excess ridiculousness, and it all works to perfection, thanks largely to Bill Moseley's Chop Top and to Carolyn Williams in this one. Iconic roles in this film, led by Tobe Hooper. You cannot miss Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, an absolute classic of 80s cinema, and don't tell anybody, but it's actually my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. That's right, it beats the original. It's breakfast for dinner, and you gotta check it out. It comes in at number 8.
Did you do that? What happened?
All right, turning the page to some sort of survival, end of the world, apocalypse horror that was also very prominent in the 80s. We go to 1984's Night of the Comet. So when a comet wipes out most of humanity, Valley Girl survivors battle zombies in the ruins of LA. It's sort of half teen comedy, half apocalyptic horror, and completely drenched in 80s neon. You've got the 80s mall culture. You've got arcade slang. You've got old movie theaters in here. Big time cinema playing a part in this, and a soundtrack that has that synth pop to it that just screamed 80s movies. A little trivia on this one. This film actually inspired one of my favorite horror comedies and one of my favorite TV shows ever. It inspired Joss Whedon to create Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He cited this movie's cheerleader survivors as a direct influence. Because what are you going to do if the world ends, the shopping mall's open, even after everything else is closed forever? You have to love Night of the Comet. This is one of my favorites. It also stars one of my crushes back in the day, but that's a whole other point. Night of the Comet from 1984 comes in at number 7.
Night of the Comet.
Now, you cannot talk 80s. You cannot talk 80s horror without having some exploitation in there. And that means you can't talk 80s horror without having Roger Corman. We're going to 1980s Humanoids from the Deep.
They're coming. Humanoids from the Deep.
Roger Corman produced a lot of sleazy horror movies, and I love him for it, but maybe none more sleazy than this creature feature about fishmen who crawl out of the ocean to go after women to mate in this fishing town, and they're going to kill anyone else who gets in the way of that biological imperative. It's part monster movie, part exploitation shocker, and pure drive-in gold. I love Humanoids from the Deep. It has an amazing 4K release that's one of the best I've ever seen from Scream Factory, but you can check it out right now on Tubi and try before you buy. This one is so 80s, from the rubber suits, which actually look pretty good. They still hold up today, but it's got overlit gore and nudity. It wants to make sure that you see all of those exploitation factors in there. It even throws in some 80s eco horror and the sleaze that only Corman can produce. Now, famously, Roger Corman clashed with the original director on this, Barbara Peters, and he said, hey, look, we got to go back. We got to add more nudity and more gore. It was against her wishes, but he's like, look, this is what's going to sell. We have to have a certain amount. And then in later years, she's come around and said, you know what, in hindsight, with the story of this movie and the type of film it is, Roger Corman was exactly right, as he was most times. Humanoids from the Deep, an absolute classic, maybe one of my favorite Roger Corman films. A great 4K. Try it before you buy right here on Tubi. It comes in at number 6.
Humanoids from the Deep.
Number 5. I can't go very long without some Barbara Crampton when you're talking about 1980s horror movies. And I can't go that long without talking 1986's Chopping Mall. Now, in Chopping Mall, a group of teens in a shopping mall, we got that 80s mall culture again. They are going to stay and sneak in overnight to party, and they end up facing off against security robots that have gone wild, and they are armed with lasers. Yeah, there's not really a lot of chopping in Chopping Mall, but there is a lot of foreshadowing to worry about automation and artificial intelligence running amok that is still very relevant today. This one is basically killer robots versus horny teenagers in a mall. Go for it. That's what you've got here. You've got exploding heads. You've got boobs. You've got neon signage. It is very 80s. You got the robots as villains. That mall culture. B-movie regulars. We got Barbara Crampton. You got Kelly Maroney in here. It is absolutely fantastic. But the robots, which kind of look like another very famous 80s robot, Johnny Number 5 from Short Circuit. These robots were so fragile while filmmaking, the cast members and the crew members had to be very gentle with them and actually roll them around on roller skates when the cameras weren't rolling. This movie is an absolute tongue-in-cheek blast. You have to have a lot of fun with this one. Chopping Mall comes in at number 5. Now, the next one on the list turns it away from fun and kind of campiness to some very, very dark and scary atmospheric horror. We're going back to 1981 with Dead and Buried.
This is the road to Potter's Bluff. There is no road out. From the creators of Alien, terror brought down to Earth, dead and buried.
Now, this one takes place in a quiet New England town of Potter's Bluff. And if that trailer doesn't get you, there is no road out of Potter's Bluff. Like that just sucked me in immediately. And this is one that I just recently, despite being a horror filmmaker and horror fan, this is one that I was just exposed to in the past year. And just like, how did I miss this incredible film? Visitors to this town and townsfolk are suddenly dying in gruesome ways, only to return later, apparently perfectly alive, but strangely different. It's very eerie. It's underrated as hell. Like I said, I didn't even know it. It kind of mixes zombie horror with small town horror. Small town horror is one of my favorite subgenres of horror. This has oodles and oodles of atmosphere to it. I often say this movie has more fog in it than John Carpenter's The Fog. It's got grim practical gore, that foggy coastal cinematography that just kind of feels cozy and close and pulls you in, and the ending is right out of a Twilight Zone episode. You have Stan Winston, who later did the practical effects for Jurassic Park. He handled the effects in this film, and it's one of the most kind of disturbing practical effects movies that you're going to see because of how real it is. And you have one of the most realistic burn scenes ever put to film. This town's population keeps rising from the dead. Dead and Buried is one you cannot miss from 1981. It checks in at number 4.
Dead and buried. It will take your breath away. All of it.
Now, number 3 on this list is one it's kind of a slasher horror a little bit, but more of a realistic sort of serial killer type horror. And it is one that I try to get everyone to watch whenever I can. I am talking 1987's The Stepfather.
Morrison isn't his real name.
What is it?
God knows, we don't. It was possible Morrison had done it before.
Now, The Stepfather is a mix of sort of suburban horror, another favorite subgenre of horror of mine, and that sort of slasher serial killer style horror, because you have a suburban man with a dark past who reinvents himself as the perfect husband and father until things go even slightly wrong in his American dream. If the white picket fence in the perfect family is even the slightest bit disturbed, and then his murderous side resurfaces. Terry O'Quinn gives a chilling standout performance in this film. How he never got nominated for any kind of acting award is sort of the snobbery against horror films, because this is one of the best performances I've ever seen. I don't care if it's horror or drama or action, whatever. Terry O'Quinn's performance in The Stepfather is absolute fantastic masterclass in acting.
That guy in Bellevue that killed his whole family, cut him up with knives. Maybe they disappointed him.
This one is a standout in this genre. It kind of is very 80s, where it takes the 80s era family values and sort of twists them into slasher violence. And this kind of scary thing about this film is the script was inspired by true events of the case of John List, who killed his family and vanished for nearly 20 years without a trace afterwards. Daddy knows best, and he's bringing an axe in The Stepfather. It checks in at number 3.
Who am I here?
Help me! Help!
You're a very bad girl.
The Stepfather.
Now, number 2 on the list, my shirt might give this one away just a little bit, but this is an absolute B-movie horror 80s classic, 1988's Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
Why here? Why now? Why clowns?
Now, what could be better than alien clowns who land on Earth in a circus-shaped spaceship, and they trap humans in cotton candy cocoons, and they fire popcorn guns? I can't make this up. This is actually the movie, and it is fantastic. It is 100% campy, surreal, and filled with effects that are great practical effects, but they somehow feel like they came out of a twisted Saturday morning cartoon, and practical gags, cult comedy horror, and a soundtrack by punk band The Dickies. This thing just oozes 80s ridiculousness. This one's PG-13. It's a cool gateway horror film if you want to watch this one with the whole family. If you got some 12 or 13-year-old, 14-year-olds who are just getting into horror and they want to experience some B-movie, horror movie, 80s horror movie goodness, Killer Klowns from Outer Space is a good place to start. You even had one of the directors on this film become the giant Clownzilla and get in the costume. It was all hands on decks. It is laughs, it is screams, it is cotton candy kills. What more do you want from a ridiculous good time? One of the best 4Ks you're ever going to see just explodes off the screen by Scream Factory, but you can try it before you buy and stream this 80s nugget of gold right here on Tubi. Killer Klowns from Outer Space checks in at number 2.
Killer Klowns from Outer Space. It's crazy.
All right, before we get to number 1 on this list, I kind of want to throw in a couple of honorable mentions here that could make this list easy that you definitely have to check out. One is the classic Creepshow 2, which is a horror anthology. You've got Stephen King behind this thing. Creepshow 2 is absolute gold. A lot of people think of Creepshow 1, and that is a classic, but Creepshow 2, especially with the vignette, the series in there, The Raft, where a group of horny teenagers swim where they shouldn't and encounter something that is not necessarily the oil slick that it looks like. Creepshow 2, absolutely one that you should check out, and so is Night of the Demons. This one screams 80s horror, as you have a group, again, of horny teenagers on Halloween night. They're going to go into like a funeral home, funeral parlor, where they shouldn't be, and they're going to raise some demonic hell. You have Linnea Quigley, Scream Queen, 80s horror movie, B-movie queen in here. You have a lot of nudity, a lot of ridiculousness, a lot of awesome practical effects. This one could definitely be on this list. As I said, there are tons of 80s horror gold on Tubi right now for you to check out this month. Night of the Demons is another one that definitely deserves an honorable mention. And at number 1 on the list, you know, your brain's out of control and your body is next. I had to have Stuart Gordon. I had to have more Barbara Crampton. I had to have Jeffrey Combs. I had to have 1986's From Beyond.
Something's coming.
Now, this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's Stuart Gordon's follow-up to Reanimator, which adapts a H.P. Lovecraft story about scientists building a machine that stimulates the pineal gland, which kind of deals with a little bit of your sex hormone and sex drive and all that stuff. But it accidentally opens doors to another dimension, and what they unleash is slimy, sexual, and monstrous with body horror that only 80s effects could deliver. We're talking The Thing level body horror, and The Thing is widely recognized as having some of the best practical effects ever. From Beyond is right there with it. Barbara Crampton is famously in her S&M outfit in here, and she wore that inspired leather outfit to a Halloween party years later, and nobody recognized it was from this movie, because this movie is another one of those 80s cult hidden gems that has grown in time to be even more popular. It is a very high recommend. Tons of neon lighting, which you might see that I am a sucker for. Gooey animatronics, and when I say gooey, I mean gooey. Of course, you got that nudity and sexuality and just the outrageously great practical effects. This one is very cosmic horror, very sexual horror, very much just great practical effects, all blended together. Stuart Gordon was great for that. Barbara Crampton is great. She still is. This movie is can't miss. Absolutely one you should try before you buy right here. Stream it now on Tubi. But if you want to see it in its greatest glory, you want to grab the 4K from either Vinegar Syndrome or 88 Films. If you grab the one from Vinegar Syndrome, you're also going to get an incredible feature-length documentary diving more into this and some more 80s horror gold. And that's what I got for you on this list.
That will be quite enough of that.
10 slices of 80s horror insanity that you can stream for free tonight on Tubi. Try before you buy. There's a lot of great physical media releases of these out there that expand on these awesome films, give you the most pristine way to watch them, and lots of extra features to help you dive deep into that 80s horror nostalgia. But if you want to get a feel for them and try them out right now, Tubi is your ticket, and these are 10 of the best, going back to those VHS days when horror box art pulled you in. Now you can find it right there on Tubi, and I hope that you check these out. But that's what I got for you, and if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. If you want to help support the channel, you can join my Patreon link below. Right now, there is a discount code, NEW25, 25% off your Patreon membership. I do all these videos, uncensored clips over there, special videos for members only, and you're going to get your name and lights on every single video, and everything goes back into the channel, and I really do appreciate it and all of you. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.